welcome to the noon tour. My name is Morgan. I work here in our education department. We're going to be doing our noon tour today, but it is also the end of the summer, and so we have our lovely summer interns. This is Finn here in the blue shirt, and then Jacob in the white. Finn is going to try his very best to give the noon tour, so please ask as many really specific and difficult questions as you can possibly think of. Alright, we ready to get started? Alright, lead the way, Finn.
Follow me, guys. We're going to hit the boardroom. When we get in there, feel free to take a seat. semester, fingers crossed. That takes a lot of school. I'm going to my junior year, so I still got time to figure it out. So I just want to say one thing real quick. As you probably noticed, all the stairs are very steep. We call them ladders here. So take your time on them. Go up, facing the stairs, away from the stairs, however you feel comfortable. Take your time if you need to. It's not a problem. But just watch your head and watch your feet, especially when you're going through the doors. And feel free to take pictures. You can touch stuff. Just be gentle. There won't be any problems. But we are on the surrender deck right now. We're in the 01 level. So we're on the one below us. Now we're on the 01. Now on the USS Missouri, which is one of the other Iowa class ships, this is where the Japanese surrendered. It's been on this deck right here. But this deck has this layer of teak here. This is new teak. It's not the original teak. It's restoration teak. But it's teak wood. Does anyone know why they chose teak wood? Any guesses? Oil. It's water resistant. It is water resistant, it's fire resistant, and the oil actually in the wood, it's got a high resin content that stops it from rotting. It also helps insulate the ship, right? It's in the middle of the Pacific, it's a giant steel ship, it's going to get really hot, especially when there wasn't any air conditioning on this ship. So the teak helps insulate the ship and keep it a little bit cooler than, 120 degrees out in the middle of the ocean. But if you look over here, we have this semicircle right here, or almost a semicircle. This used to go all the way around. There's a big gun tub for the 40mm anti-air Bofors guns. But after jets were invented, these couldn't keep track of all those fast-moving planes, so they got rid of them. There used to be a bunch of these all over. They got rid of them, and now sat there. That was when they recommissioned the ship for Vietnam. And Captain Snyder was commanding the ship at the time. So he saw this big giant tub here, and if there's one thing on one side of the ship, there's always one on the other. Right? The ship's mirrors itself. And he saw these two big tubs. So, well, what am I going to do with those? So he painted them blue, he welded them shut, and he filled them with water. There were two swimming pools on the ship for a time during the Vietnam Convention. But there was one issue with that. That being that through those windows right there is where the captain stayed. And the pool's right here. And if you had something better to do, you didn't want to be caught swimming around in the pool with the captain staring right at you. It's not a good thing. So the pool didn't get a lot of use, and the Navy really didn't like it. It's a battleship, it's not a cruise ship. But it stayed for a while. And it was two big blue pools, so when planes and helicopters flew above us, they saw these two big blue pools, and they looked like eyes, so they called it Old Blue Eyes, named after Frank Sinatra, who was from New Jersey. But does anyone have any questions? No? Alright. Over here you can see the saluting gun. I believe it's 40mm. The ship is a person, you address it as she, right? It's not an it, it's a she. So when it enters and leaves port, it salutes. Using one of these saluting guns here, just go with the way. So this is one of these 25mm cold guns. These are for anti-air and anti-other tiny little ships. You're obviously not going to shoot this at another battleship. It won't do anything. But a smaller ship, potentially a boarding party, although I don't know who would ever want to try and board this ship. But this is what you would use that for. And we also have these 5-inch guns. There's a lot of these scattered around. We'll get to those later. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right, follow me, guys. We're going to go into the captain's import cabin.
Jersey, born and raised.
Jersey, me too. Jersey? You guys?
Italy.
Italy? Oh, wow, okay. We had some Germans yesterday on the ship. I thought they were the farthest, but not the same distance.
Yes, same.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for coming. How'd you end up here? Specifically on the Battleship?
We are YouTube channel. We are model
okay.
builders. We made
Gotcha.
small boat.
Yeah, Ryan and his lovely Alright, so we're in the captain's import cabin right now. The captain has two cabins. One for when you're not sailing and one for when you're sailing. This is the one for when he's not sailing. Now this acts as a traveling embassy. So if you park in Sweden, you would take Swedish ambassadors in this room. If you park in Italy, you would take Italian ambassadors in this room. This is a traveling delegation. And we've had a lot of famous people on here. We have had Swedish royalty on. But they would have them come in here. And if you were traveling at sea, the captain is not allowed to dine in here or stay in here. He needs to stay up a few levels above near the conning tower where they steer. Because after the Titanic, it became naval policy that the captain needs to be as close as possible to the wheel at all times when you're driving. Because when the Titanic sunk, they saw the iceberg, and they had to run down a bunch of decks, wake them up, and then bring them up a bunch of decks, and by then it was too late. So after that, the Navy said, we're not going to have that problem, and they fixed it. But you can see a picture of all the captains right here. I believe all of them became admiral after they were captains of the ship. Not all of them?
Nope.
Which one didn't?
Edison, right after Snyder, that guy.
That guy. He's the one who did?
He's the one who is not.
Why?
So, New Jersey has one of four. There's 4 Iowa class battleships. There's initially intended to be 6 of them. The reason they only finished with the 4 is after the attack on Pearl Harbor, they realized that the heyday of the Battleship is actually really over. These things are basically obsolete by the time they build them. But they're really, really expensive, and these are also really long-term construction projects. It's supposed to take them 5 years to build New Jersey. They do it in 3, and the reason being is that this is a 24/7, 364-day-a-year operation. So, they use all 4 of them during World War II, they use all 4 of them during Korea, and then Vietnam rolls around. It's a big question with Vietnam. So Captain Snyder, who's our first captain during Vietnam, makes it a really big point to go to Congress to say, I think the battleships are worth it. Now, the military is having a lot of problems during Vietnam. There are 2 really big drivers, the first of which is that it's a budget problem. Running a battleship is really, really expensive. This thing burns 2.4 million gallons of fuel every 45 days at cruising speed. Cruising speed for us is 10 miles an hour. The second thing is that this is a crew of 2,000. That is 2,000 mouths you gotta feed, 2,000 people you gotta dress, and you've gotta do their laundry and wash their dishes and their medical care and their dental care and give them haircuts and all sorts of other stuff. And so the battleship's a very large investment, and they actually only bring back New Jersey. So, Snyder is a little bit of a character. We're very, very fond of Snyder around here. He installs swimming pools. He has a bathtub put into his cabin. He makes it a point to do birthday cake once a month on the mess deck with his enlisted crew. He does a lot of work to build a lot of morale because he realizes that he's super fortunate to avoid draftees on the battleship for the most part. A lot of people are signing up to join the Navy because they know that they can't get out of it. Your chances of survival are much, much better here on a battleship that's going to sit 200 miles offshore than it will be if you get drafted into the Army. Because if you get drafted into something like the Army or the Marine Corps, that is boots on the ground. You're getting in the jungle and those guys do it. So, they relieve Snyder if you only stay here for like a year and a half, and they bring in this guy, Captain Peniston. Now, Captain Peniston is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, and as a midshipman at the Naval Academy, he does a summer cruise here on the battleship. The very first ship he ever sets foot on in his naval career is us. When you become captain of a battleship, this is typically the last thing you do. They send you out here, that's kind of it. This is your last hurrah, you do it a year and a half, you typically do 1 more short tour as a captain, and then it is basically a guaranteed promotion to admiral. So he thinks like this is the story of all times. My first ship and my last ship are the same. I'm going to go from midshipman to commanding officer. It's like really beautiful narrative arc. And what they do is they say, congratulations, Captain, here are the keys to your battleship. Your job is to take the ship out of commission. And he said, what, why? Like, New Jersey's been so effective in Vietnam. We sank a whole island. And they said, I don't really care. You're going to take New Jersey out of commission. Vietnam would not talk to us unless we took New Jersey out of commission. She was so destructive in Vietnam that it was like, the war was not going to end as long as they kept the ship in service, but they did not tell him that. The ink was not dry on any treaty or any contract. And so he was basically told, look, you've taken orders your entire life, this is no exception. Your job is to decommission the battleship. So what he does is he goes to Congress and says, hi, I'm a captain in the United States Navy. I graduated top of my class at the Naval Academy. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. I think it's a bad idea to remove New Jersey. And so they kind of pat him on the back and they say, that's very nice. We don't care. So what he does is he starts encouraging other people on the ship to do the same thing. He says, hey, just a reminder everyone, communication with your elected officials is protected communication as a service member. Please stop contacting Congress. Because you realize when you've got 2,000 people on board, you've got people from at least 48 of the 50 states. You can hit pretty much everyone and just start contacting your elected officials. And then from there, don't stop. Contact your local newspaper, whether or not your local newspaper is the Washington Post or the Northern Iowa Cornfield Morning Star. Like, we want people to know that you have worked hard, we've built morale on this ship, and we want New Jersey to go to Vietnam. This is now a cause we believe in. He gets in a lot of trouble for doing this. He is very publicly questioning what the Navy thinks. They are really mad at him for doing this, and they dig him on a technicality. They tell him he is not eligible for the promotion to admiral because he does not take the ship into a combat zone, and he is the only one that does not become an admiral. Yeah, good stuff. Very sorry for Captain Peniston, but the other 18 of them do make it.
Thank you. Well, my favorite captain is McCorkle up here. McCorkle is about 6'6", 6'5" feet tall. I don't know why he chose to join the Navy. I wouldn't have. But he had this tiny little dachshund, a wiener dog, named Heinrich, right? And he said, if I'm going on a ship, I'm bringing my dog with me, no question. So he brought his dog with him. But you guys all saw those little spots on the door at the bottom. You know, there's a lip there. And the dog was so tiny, it couldn't get over the lip. So he would have one of his personal Marine bodyguards carry the dog around behind him. So you'd see this giant captain walking through. He's 6'6", ducking under every door. And then a Marine right behind him, this tiny little dog, named Heinrich. And it was his nickname is Heine. So if you were carrying around this dog, you were carrying the captain's Heine around. That's the thing inside of him. But if you look over here, we have a bunch of our silver. This silver is actually from Tiffany Cup. It's very expensive. But it was for the original Battleship New Jersey, BB-16. BB-16 was a very old ship. It's, I believe, pre-World War I. Is that true? Yeah. Pre-World War I. But there was a guy in the Navy who wanted to prove that a plane could sink a ship. He wanted to prove that aerial power is superior to naval power. And they tested it on BB-16, the original Battleship New Jersey. Turns out you can sink a ship with a plane because it was still, it was sunk right off the coast of North Carolina. It's still there today. But we have it silver, and we're holding it for the new USS New Jersey, which is a submarine. It's also the first USS New Jersey to have women on board. I believe it's a nuclear-powered submarine.
It is a nuclear. She's a Block 4 Virginia fast attack submarine. She was commissioned last September. The first submarine actually purpose-built to have both men and women crew members on board. So the last job in the Navy to open to women is actually the submarine service. It is for female officers in 2010, female enlisted in 2016. They have 110 crew members, 35 of them are women, including their chief engineer, whose name is also Morgan, which I'm very excited about.
Is it on active duty yet?
It is. Well, sort of. So they commissioned the boat, and then they were like, that's great, we are immediately going back to the yard. So she is currently in shakedown trials, finishing up a yard period, and then is set to go somewhere unannounced to the public later this year.
You said it's a ballistic or fast attack?
She's a fast attack, 796.
Just go with the trail Chinese subs.
Yeah, but they're not going to trust that.
But we also have the christening bottle here, or at least it's a laser engraving of it. But most ships are christened with champagne. You guys have all probably seen that. They smash the bottle in the front of the ship, it shatters, it's good luck. But since it's from New Jersey, they use New Jersey wine instead. If you're from New Jersey, you know Vineland down in South Jersey, there was a big wine industry, so they used New Jersey wine instead. And it was christened by the daughter-in-law of Thomas Edison, because his son was the governor at the time. But if you're the captain, it has its perks. Obviously, aside from having all this space, you have your own personal kitchen right there. So any time of day or night you want food, you can go and get it. You guys can come through.
So wait, this was the import cabin.
Yes.
He could get food out of that kitchen, still cook for him? Sorry. But this was the import cabin.
Yeah.
But he said he could get food from that kitchen all the time?
So the import cabin, if you will, is actually technically the stateroom, which is the bedroom. He is allowed to use the space out here as the living room and the dining room because he's awake. The problem really is the bridge where he's supposed to be asleep. And now that being said, the O4 like at sea cabin is actually almost never used. We have very little evidence to suggest people slept there for more than like a day at a time. It is more a technicality than anything else that if you're supposed to sleep near the bridge, it is like a virtue of international maritime law. As we all know, you don't have to follow the laws when you make them or enforce them. They very rarely apply to Americans with very big guns.
You'll also see next to his bed, there's two buttons right above where his pillows are. One says pantry, one says orderly. Pantry calls in a servant. They'll get him some food. They'll get him whatever he wants. Orderly will call in a Marine bodyguard. So anytime he needs it, he clicks a button and he gets it. But does anyone have any questions before we move on? All right, well, we got it.
There's no one line.
Oh! Ow! You alright? Yep.
I knew one of these was gonna get me.
So the officer, like, so only the captain can change a standing order? Like, yeah. The officer on duty, there's like an officer on duty who can make that.
Stand up top. There you go.
What is
No, what was this?
Oh, this was the captain's statement.
Chief of Staff.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if he meant way. I think he played a part in it. I remember.
Yes.
He was there.
Play take off was the one everyone was looking for is that battle. Something carriers.
Yeah. Actually.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So you said it was 6 ships. All the other 2
I knew it.
Oh, there was a water
Illinois.
so we'll find it.
And maybe in Michigan. That doesn't sound right though.
Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Is it the Kentucky and Michigan? Yeah. They were, but
They laid them down.
They laid their keels and never built them. I thought, yeah, 'cause I thought Michigan was supposed to get one.
This is the last one that's finished building. They put it out in December 7th, 1943. I'm sorry, 1942 when they put it out in the water. Just to say, you know, the year after Pearl Harbor, they said, we're coming back.
And everything in the dessert is the last edition.
So when the Japanese surrendered, they surrendered on the USS Missouri because Truman was from Missouri, so he chose to have a Missouri rather than New Jersey, which probably deserved it more.
That one makes sense.
I might be biased.
Because he was president at the time.
Yes.
You got everyone, Finn.
All right, so sorry for making it so cramped right here. We're about to move in for a second. We're going to go to the Combat Engagement Center. Now, this used to be where the Admiral would have stayed, but in the 80s when they recommissioned, they figured they might not have an Admiral on here. They hoped they wouldn't have an Admiral, so they took out his room, and they put all this fancy new technology in here. This is where they control all the modern radar. This is where they control the Tomahawk missiles, the Harpoon missiles, the Seamus Phalanx, all that stuff. It's all in here. When we get in there, feel free to have a seat if you'd like. You can mess with technology, just be kind of gentle with it. But it's different from the Combat Information Center. This is the Combat Engagement Center. See here, it was a lot easier. And then you slap maybe an extra inch of armor. They control 5-inch guns, 16-inch guns. A lot of the older stuff that had the ship had to be built around. But in the 80s, when they recommissioned, they
Yeah. So it's different.
What?
California?
No, that's in Norfolk, Virginia.
That's in Norfolk.
Iowa's in California.
Iowa's in California.
Missouri's over at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. I was actually at the Missouri.
We were.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was good.
Hope not as cool. I'm hoping this one's a little cool, a little more decorated.
Yeah.
Can I borrow this for us with you?
All right, so like I said, we're in the Combat Engagement Center. Now, this room is very, very important and very, very dangerous. This is where the probably most dangerous stuff on the ship is controlled. So,
Use that covered. That's good.
I think that, yeah, that's the one that still works.
Oh wait, what?
So, like I said, in the 80s, this room was put in. Frankly, when they put only I think it's 2 inches of steel on the side, they were hoping we didn't take any hits, so that's why they left it like that. They didn't think they were going to put the New Jersey in that much danger where it could take a hit and damage any of this equipment. But if you look at the green screens, these is where they controlled all the Tomahawks. These red screens over here where they control the Harpoon missiles, those are ship to ship. Over in my right over there, that's where the Sea Whiz is controlled. And then to the left of it is where some of the radar is. But this room's very dark. That's for a reason. All these screens from the 80s are low contrast screens, so it has to be dark for you to be able to see them. And then they did a study, the Navy did a study, and they checked the color of your surrounding compared to your anxiety levels. And they found that blue... Is that going to go? No? They found that blue keeps people calm, right? It's soothing to you. You know, you don't get antsy when it's blue. But red is the color of anxiety. Red gets you antsy. And when you're controlling Tomahawk missiles that are very expensive and very dangerous, they don't want you to be antsy, so they put these blue lights in here. And this room also has some of the best air conditioning, although I don't think it's on right now or else you'd all be able to hear it. But that's for all the computers. It helps keep the computers running. Now, the commander would have sat in this chair right here, and he would have had an enlisted man come over here. He'd have to come up. He's got the most difficult job in the room. He has to write on this board. But if the commander's sitting here, and he's writing like this, his arm's blocking the view, and he might smudge it a little. So he would have to learn how to write backwards to write everything. I think the X is pretty good. I think I can manage that one. But the rest I don't know. Now, of all the computers in here, this one is still actively doing something right now. It's tracking the International Space Station, so you can see exactly where it is. And if you look in this scary red vault right here, I'll tell the story. About 2 years ago, the curational staff pulled out this big box of keys, and they started digging through these keys, and one of them said nuclear PTF, nuclear permission to fire. And they check it out, and it fits right into where the Tomahawks are controlled. And I believe they brought it over to the Wisconsin or another ship, and it fit right into theirs. And it said nuclear permission to fire. They called the Navy. They said, what's up? And the Navy said, there could have been nukes on this ship. There could not have been. We're not going to say anything. They're the Navy. They don't like to say anything, especially when it comes to nuclear missiles. But at one point, there was one of the boxes where we keep the Tomahawks that was protected by a Marine or a Marine Guard at all times, and we had the key. So we were definitely nuclear capable at the least. And a lot of people have a suspicion that there were nuclear warheads on this ship. Does anyone have any questions about this room? No? All right. I'm going to say one more thing real quick. So a lot of these computers are controlled with joysticks, especially these ones over here, but there's a few that you can see they got joysticks on them. And the Navy did that for a very specific reason, right? This room was put in the 80s, like I said. And during the 80s is when all the arcades were popping up. And a lot of young men knew how to use a joystick, right? The Atari had just come out too. They were familiar with it. You didn't need to train a guy to use a joystick. He already came pre-programmed with that knowledge. And in the modern day, a lot of drones, a lot of tanks, a lot of military technology is controlled using Xbox controllers because young men come knowing how to use it. But if you guys will follow me.
There's the air conditioner kicking on.
That's the air conditioning.
Oh, now it's so bright.
some on another ship.
Green is the other common color. Green is the other common color. We use green in the missile silos. Same reason.
Like I know when they announced, you know, your battle stations all like to go red and grab the ship. So, you know, get on your feet, get going, essentially.
No, I hear the biggest danger to someone in a nuclear silo is boredom.
Probably.
Sitting around all day doing nothing.
The Titan II missiles never fired ever. And they man them.
I'm not sure I'd want to be the guy doing that.
2-3 days at a time, I think. When you get in, they close the hatch. They're underground, so you're not going anywhere. Get to Arizona, it's worth seeing.
We only asked about the battleships because my dad and I were on the street. And I was like, I wonder, because I knew there was like a pre-World War I, but I didn't know that it was supposed to be built post-World War II.
I think it was actually, in my opinion, you know, the Bismarck ship. Yeah. Bismarck was sunk using aircraft carriers. And I think that's when the world kind of realized that aircraft carriers and air power in the world.
Bismarck was not as big as
It was like 15 times a lot tinier in general. But it was the largest one built by the European countries. Us and the Japanese had a much larger ship. All right, so we are on the Admiral's flag bridge right now. When the ship is moving, the Admiral would generally hang out around here on this side and the other side too. We're going to go by it later, but you're going to see that the back deck mirrored on the other side. Now, when a captain commands a ship, an admiral commands a fleet. So the admiral would have to communicate with other ships a lot more than the captain would. So that's why he has these here. Now, you don't want to use radio all the time, because radio is very easy to intercept, very easy to decode, and very easy for your enemy to read it. So, if you can see the other ship traveling in your formation, you could use one of these. There's a giant spotlight. It goes like that with shutters. You can talk in Morse code to the other ship. I don't know anything in Morse code. I know you're supposed to know SOS, but I don't. And then in addition to that, under that blue tarp over where Morgan is, that's where they keep all the signal flags, right? So you can do all your signal flags. That'll spell out a word, spell out numbers, and a few other general phrases that you might need. And you communicate without having to say anything over the air. Now, if you look over here, you'll see all the admirals we had on the ship. Top right, Admiral Halsey, that's the 5-star admiral we've had. It was actually between him and Spruance, the guy in the top left, to get that last position as a 5-star admiral. He was the last 5-star admiral. But it was pretty much after Leyte Gulf, I believe, that they kind of said, we're going to give it to Halsey. They were very different personalities. Halsey was more of a cowboy. He liked to take more risks. But Spruance was a very plain person. I don't know exactly how to put it. You know, his clothes were always ironed perfectly. He didn't make jokes. He didn't laugh at jokes. That's the kind of guy he was. But I guess the Navy liked funnier guys more, so they chose Halsey. Some people call him Bull Halsey. But he's the only 5-star we had on the ship, except for, you can see on there, we had Nimitz, but he only came for one dinner and then left. You can also see John McCain Sr., father of John McCain Jr., who ran for president in 2008. But when we're going to go through here in a minute, if you look on the floor, you'll see 5 stars painted on the floor. Those are to commemorate Halsey, because he chose this ship as his flagship, because he's from Elizabeth, New Jersey. This ship was the newest ship in the Navy and the biggest ship in the Navy, and it kind of worked out for him, so he chose it. And the New Jersey commemorated them with those 5 stars. You'll see them on this side and that side. But does anyone have any questions? No? All right. Follow me, guys.
As you were.
Gorgeous view. I'd want to be stationed right here on this deck, right in that chair right there.
That'd be perfect.
Unless it's raining, then I don't want to be on that chair.
I think we get behind that glass. There's the ferry. You might see a helicopter come in and take off from the heliport right over there. We're gonna keep going up, guys. Watch your head on this.
Oh,
Big
right
safe
there.
one.
Yeah.
Where?
See that helicopter on the ground right there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Little heliport. Looks like I saw it go behind the building. It's like,
I know.
Let's get the guns down. Oh, yeah. You and 8 other guys will be in there at the time.
That's a good time.
Oh, turret.
This is not a turret.
Oh, it's not?
Nope.
It's the wheel.
Oh.
Conning tower.
What is?
Secure. Very secure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a little important in there.
Holy crap.
And now we are on the 04 level. We're going to go one more level higher to the 05. We're trying to open up the 08 level, which is a lot higher, gives you a really nice view. But they're working on repairing some stuff, some safety hazards up there. But that'll be open soon.
Where were they con from? Was it higher or like, where's the wheel? Oh, the wheel's
The
here.
wheel's right in there.
Wheel's in here. Was this where the captain would be?
Captain would be in there, or the executive officer sometimes, or some
Who's
other guy
ever-
would be
who's
in
ever-
there. Generally, one important person's in there at a time, and the other one hangs out on the outside just to get a better view. You don't want to have everyone crowded in there at a time. But keep moving in, guys, a little bit.
There's Marilyn. Get in there. That's all right.
I wish it was open.
That's fine.
Oh my lord.
Keep people in and out of there.
It's small.
It seems out all over again in person.
All right, so this is the conning tower right here. I was telling these gentlemen, the wheel is in here, or at least one of the wheels. There's a few other spots you can steer the ship from, but this is one you would use pretty much the majority of the time. This is the most protected part of the ship. Now we have 16-inch guns, and when you build a ship, you generally want to be able to make it to withstand a shot from itself. So all the armor around the ship is generally about 16 inches, but this is 17.5 inches. Generally, 1 inch of the shell can go through 1 inch of steel, generally. So this is made to be able to withstand a shot from its own guns. You want to protect this because the captain would be in here a lot of the time. There would be about 7 other guys, 8 other guys in there with him at a time, but you don't want multiple important people in there at a time, just so that they're not all crowded in there, they don't get stuck, and someone can be on the outside and tell them what to do. You'll see these tiny little portholes all around here that you can look through, and that's how you would communicate. You'd just be given a bearing, and the guy on the wheel would turn to that bearing. You don't really need to see the steer because you have a lot of guys telling you what to do before you do it. And you also see all this glass here. Now, a problem with all this glass, and there's a lot of glass below us, is that if you fire those 16-inch guns, the big ones, the concussion from the shell will shatter all this glass. If you fire those 16-inch guns, glass would shatter in those apartment buildings on the other side of the river and over here on the Camden waterfront. Instantly shatter just from the concussion of the blast. So, there's these little knobs, if you look at them, there's these kind of little knobs that you would put a crank in, and it's like an old car. You would just roll down the window before you fire the guns. So all the windows in the ship would have to be rolled down before those 16-inch guns fire. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right, keep moving, guys.
Look, there were also something on the side too.
That's fine.
Here, this is the map room, left map. Captain at sea cabin. This is the captain's floor. The admiral has the floor below us. The admiral's flag grid is below us. This is the captain's floor. So all these blue chairs are for the captain up here. All the blue chairs are below us for the admiral. But we're gonna keep moving up the 05 level.
Oh, goodness.
It's at the end of the tour.
This is the end.
Well, we run into an actual tour group.
It's an actual tour. Lunch.
Wait, no. Stay right there. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Yes.
he's in the engineers, he's on the engines full time.
We like both. Of course you do.
It's the exit.
So what was the reason to pop the balloon? Just to say you're here?
Like, they did it so one day saw
too many battleships together, just because it's not smart to put all your eggs in one basket, essentially. And I know all the Iowas were all in separate groups. So all the ships that were our size are generally in a different battle group.
Have some of them like mid-layer.
Yeah.
Those carriers.
We were never with a carrier, I don't believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't travel with carriers too often. Just because, again, you don't want to put all your eggs in the same basket. So if that group takes a lot of damage, you know, I mean, this ship in modern money took $1 billion to make, and the carrier costs even more, so you don't want to have them all together. But, Morgan, do you want to do fire control?
I don't normally talk about fire control up here.
Oh, okay. So, just real quick, this is fire control. This is where you basically see what you just hit. I use these towers right here. They're kind of like periscopes, and you can see out to where you're hitting. This whole thing will rotate with the gun so that it can get a better view of what you hit, so you can readjust afterwards. And the 5-inch guns, you can see one over here. They have their own that would do just the same thing. But also, I would like to talk about all the other ships across the water over here. So, you see that tiny little tugboat, green, that's the Jupiter. The boat that actually took us out of the river when we were originally visiting, I think it was in the 1930s. That ship's been around for a while now. And behind it, you can see the Olympia. The Olympia was a flagship of Admiral Dewey in the Battle of Manila Bay. And that is the state-of-the-art ship right around the turn of the century. also brought back the remains of the unknown soldier, and I brought to Arlington. But the biggest gun on that ship was an 8-inch gun, right? And then 50 years later, 40 years later, when they built this, we have 16-inch guns. It had a few 5-inch guns. We had about 10 double gun turrets on this ship. That ship's about 300 feet long. We're about 12 feet shy of 900 feet long. So in about 40 years, we went from that to this. That's the difference right here. And then if you look to the left of that, you'll see this blue ship. That is a very old ship, actually. It's a restaurant now, but it was originally a German coaling ship, hauled coal around. But when we declared war in World War I, it was sitting in Brooklyn Harbor, and we decided to just keep it, so it became an American ship. It was in Rocky, and it was also in The Godfather. I believe it's a ship that the guy gets off when he comes back when he goes to the old country and he comes back. I think that's the ship he gets off of. But now it's a restaurant, you can get a reservation there if you'd like. And probably the most important ship here, if you look to the left of it, there's that yacht right there. It's super, super important. Right, it's called the Spirit of Philadelphia. It's a tiny little cruise yacht, but it's important because I had my 8th grade semi-formal dance there. But does anyone have any questions? Every once in a while they do. They'll do like a big concession trip. But very, very rare.
Where was the USS United States?
Oh yeah, because it's got moved.
USS United States is done that way.
Yeah.
They moved that, didn't they?
Well, yeah, in Mobile being disassembled. Yes, so if you look straight over, you will see Lincoln Financial Field, home of 2025 Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. Go Birds!
Go Lions!
Yeah, we're next.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good season these days.
Further down,
Maybe.
you'll see like a blue and yellow IKEA sign. She's right there, actually.
Oh wow.
Yes, Philly Titanic may she rest in pieces. If you're into scuba diving, it is going to be the world's largest artificial reef. Now, I will say the situation's very, very sad. A real piece of engineering marvel about the SS United States. The reason she goes so fast is her engine. She has these special things called Iowa-type turbines. You know who else happens to have those? We do. She is a little bit longer. She does go significantly faster. As it turns out, when you get rid of all the armor, it's easier to go faster. And if you ask any sailor, they will tell you that perhaps the most dignified outcome for your ship is a museum. Unfortunately, it costs $10,000 a day to maintain a battleship. As much as we'd love to save every ship, that's not really an option. The second most dignified option for your ship is scrapping like that, to be like sunk as a reef in one piece. And perhaps the saddest of all the outcomes is being turned into razor blades and beer cans. So the great news for the SS United States is that she avoids the beer can fight fate.
Beer can.
Oh my good Christian battleship.
All right, so we're gonna head this way in just a second. But before we do, I'm gonna talk about what you're gonna see when you're walking down. You're gonna see a bunch of 5-inch guns. We'll get inside one later, but not right now. You're gonna see the chaffs, Serbach chaffs. They were invented by the British. They're a defense mechanism. And essentially what they do, if you ever seen like a helicopter drop flares behind and send a missile off, it's a similar kind of idea. Not the same technology though at all. But essentially it's a tiny mortar and it shoots out a bunch of aluminum foil essentially. And when an incoming missile sees it, it thinks it's the side of the ship, flies right into it, and then flies right past the ship, and we're fine. You'll see a lot of those. You'll see this thing right here, the Sea-Whiz Phalanx, close-in weapon system, I believe. Now that is a defensive thing. I originally thought it was a minigun. You use that to shoot at tinier ships, but it actually is used to shoot down incoming missiles. It can fire 3,000 rounds a minute, and it fires in very short bursts. It originally fired depleted uranium because uranium's the heaviest natural element you can find. But they switched to tungsten because while tungsten isn't as heavy, tungsten is a lot more dense. It's the densest metal in the periodic table. So they switched to tungsten. They didn't want to deal with all the uranium. It's expensive and expensive to maintain. But that is used to shoot down an incoming missile. You shoot at it. If you can take a fin off the missile, if you can damage it in any way, it'll send it off its course and the ship will be fine. And that was out in the 80s with all the tomahawks and the harpoons. And they still use a lot of these today. You'll see these on more modern ships too.
The only gun that's still used in the Navy, pretty much.
Right, follow me, guys. And these steps are steep, so be careful.
what happened was the people who owned it figured out it's expensive to maintain old ships.
Well, I know it's by car. Through a vessel. Pretty quick. Well, when you say it's much faster, it's like a lot faster.
Oh, yeah. I chose history because I'm not a numbers guy.
Oh, that's fine. But like some history will have some.
Oh, yeah.
text.
I learned that one working here.
Because I was going to say from Michigan, we are Detroiters, so we do actually play Philly later in the season though here. So.
I always like Megatron. He's been gone for a while, but I like him.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, if we had beaten Washington and then played you guys, it would have been a lot more time. But look at how we did it. You remember
Really, dropped 55 on that. Got 40 in the Super Bowl. I think a lot of people are happy with that.
Oh, I was like, just every.
So because you're on a boat,
right there in front of us. That's what we.
I mean, playing backup in the Super Bowl.
Cool.
but this yeah.
You see, at LSU, he's been on.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this Cougar now from every college season that is now. And it can simulate all the plays for you, but you can do them like faster. You can run them faster than the actual cycle. That's why he's so tall and he's used to it. So he's when he regularly plays, he's actually playing slow. Yeah.
So they can't defer especially
All right. So these are our Tomahawk missiles, right? Now these are in these heavy boxes, mainly to protect them, especially from the, like I said, the blast from the 16-inch guns will shatter the glass. These are in these big boxes to protect them from such blasts. There's 4 in each one. We've got, 16 here. We have 16 more, 8 on this side, 8 on this side, towards the back. These need to be loaded with the crane. You cannot reload these while you're at sea. They need to be reloaded when you're in a port. Now, we are the first battleship, I believe, to fire a Tomahawk missile, but we have never fired one in anger. We were just practice testing it. But these Tomahawks, I believe, I'm not great on numbers, but I believe they can go 850 miles is their distance. A nuclear one can go about 1,500 miles, so you can hit Dallas with the nuclear armed one. I believe the 800 miles can hit right about Illinois, I believe is a reference point. But they're very accurate, extraordinarily accurate. I believe if you're aiming for anywhere in between a pitcher's mound and home plate, it can get right in between there. That's the that distance margin of error it'll hit. So it's very, very accurate. And they're very, very devastating. They can hit another ship, and they can hit land. They cannot hit air. This ship never had any ground-to-air capacity with these missiles. That's what the Tomahawks are for. They're, I like to think they're the bigger brother of the Harpoons that we're going to see in a minute. Helicopter coming in. But the Harpoon missiles are strictly for ship-to-ship combat. And we have 16 of those, which we'll see in a minute. Now the Tomahawks you'll see is facing this way. It's not facing off the side of the ship like you might think. That's because of all the exhaust and the flames coming out of the bottom of it would damage the actual ship and damage anyone standing there. So you want to aim it off the side of the ship so it all just goes off the side, and you can see, I think he's leaning on one, the big deflectors, they'll deflect a lot of the heat off them straight up into the air. They face this way for that reason. The Tomahawks do the same, or I'm sorry, the Harpoons face off the side. But as we're going to walk by them in a minute, you'll see they have these big dishes. They're obnoxious and annoying to walk around. But that's to deflect all the heat from the exhaust of the missile. And we have 2 more of the phalanxes up here, you can see. We have our smokestack here and another smokestack there. Does anyone have any questions about any of this?
I'm interested. Do you know what these little railings on the floor were used for?
Yeah, so they're pretty much just like railroad tracks to help you reload the Tomahawks, put these boxes on in the first place. And before then, Before the ship was refitted in the 80s, this is where they had more of those 40mm Bofors guns. But when they took those off, they took off pretty much all of them. We're going to see one actually later. We have one. But since they were obsolete, they replaced them with these. And these were there originally else to help load them and disassemble them if you needed to. And you can also see on the floor right in the center here, that tells you you're pretty much in the exact middle of the ship. You're standing there. It's perfectly in the middle this way, and perfectly in the middle this way. But any other questions? All right, follow me, guys, and watch your head. Go inside the 15-inch turret, we're having a floor, but I can see you where it is. And obviously in the front of the ship, you can go to the top of the 15-inch gun. You can see at the top layer, but it's a 5-story building. The turret is. If you want to see the lower levels, you can go there. It's on the blue floor level. Down below. But they've only repainted the sides of it, not the top or anything. But when they decommissioned it, they gave it a bunch of shit out. So that's the very oldest, 20 years ago. I'd probably say maybe 10 years ago.
Maddie, stop it. Exactly. Stop it.
All right, so we passed, these are the Harpoon missiles right here. They are for ship-to-ship combat. We have 16 of them, 8 on this side, 8 on the other side. They can go 85 miles, which is a lot farther than our 16-inch guns, which can only go 23 miles. So you could be well far away from your enemy and use these, and you're good and you're doing damage. But we're going to keep moving down here to the 5-inch gun.
How do you remember where you go? Nothing's color coded.
Ow.
And they're all our size.
We're going to all go through in a minute.
Oh, Jesus, definitely more narrow. Okay. It's more sleeper narrow.
16.
Wow. There, my father.
Nobody was, I'll say, our size back in World War II.
No, they weren't.
I don't think we ever actually properly installed the weather balloon. I think it was
Why not? Wow. Yeah, this is sweet little.
Alright, so this is the 5-inch one right here, one of them. Now normally they're operated by regular naval sailors, but this one is actually operated by the Marines. We have this little plaque for them. They use a lot of pride in this one. They have the best gun that you can be in on the Battleship. They love their fire the fastest. In general, these can fire every 3 seconds you can show going on. That's how fast they can go. And you have 2 more going. You have pump shafts. You have 14 here at a time. Guys,
Loaded by your strong right arm.
set up elevator, put in the gun, and it can fire. You can fire 3 of those here. You can fire white phosphorus rounds, you can fire high explosive rounds, or you can fire starshell rounds. Illuminate the air at a little better. But when you're firing, you have this big 55-pound bullet, right, and then a 20-pound brass casing around it. And the brass casing is discarded after you fire. So it's 70 pounds, you lift it up 70 pounds, put it in the gun, and you're firing every 3 seconds. So that's why Popeye's got the big arms, because you're a naval sailor, you gotta be able to lift all these heavy things. But when you're done with the casing, you'd open this door, there's one on the other side too. You pop it open and just dump it out on the teak. You can actually see all these dents in the teak where the brass casings would have landed and dented it. And then when the pile gets big enough and you can't fit them out here, you open up this door and keep throwing out more. Now, you're probably supposed to keep it. I'm sure the Navy officially said that you keep them and reuse all these shells. But especially in World War II in Korea, you just take them, throw them off the side of the water when you're done with them. Because if there's one thing that the U.S. had more than every other country, it was ammunition. In all branches of the military, we just had an absolute ton of it. Does anyone have any questions? All right. If you guys want to go in, be my guest.
So was it standard practice that the Marines would take over one turret, or did they just train here?
I don't know that answer. Morgan.
Yes, it was.
It was.
So New Jersey has Marines on board. It has three missions. The Marines detachment on ships was discontinued by the Department of the Navy entirely by 1997. So the Marines, especially in the 80s and 90s, are part of this kind of awkward transition where a lot of their normal responsibilities, such as ship security and captain orders, are being transitioned over to rapid arms, which is the Navy equivalent to the military police. And so it is particularly important in the 80s that the Marines essentially would have a job or make useful aboard the ship. So they had about 55 here, and then when there was more Marines, they also found 56 on the other side.
All right. Any other questions, guys? All right, follow me, guys.
Those were, yeah, those were regular people, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, doing all right? Yeah.
All right.
He's about to go into his second year of college. He's young. Yeah.
You've got the easy job today. Got all the interns doing most of the work for you.
It's often easier just to do it yourself.
It really is.
Or babysitting the interns.
number 3 right here of our 16-inch guns. It's got 3 guns in the front. It's number 3 because at the back. 1, 2, and 3. 3 guns in the front. And it will fire 23 miles, right? 23 miles, and it's extraordinarily accurate, right? It'll pretty much land exactly where you thought it would land. But this is one of the shells. It weighs about as much as a Volkswagen Beetle. This is actually the tinier of the shells. This is a regular shell. There's a bigger one that's used to pierce through concrete. It'll hit a bunker. So instead of detonating on impact, it'll drill through it a little bit before exploding. And that's to get rid of your standard bunker or pretty much anything else. But it's fired. You fire one of these with 6 bags of powder. Each bag weighs 110 pounds. So to fire one of these shells, it takes 660 pounds of gunpowder to launch it 23 miles. And you fire this every 3 seconds. 30 seconds. Each of these guns is going off every 30 seconds. You don't want to fire them at the exact same time because the blast from the other one will knock you up with all force. So when you pull the trigger, you can fire all 3 at the same time, but they're each going to be delayed by a few milliseconds just so the blast doesn't knock them off course. But this is a nice side view of the whole thing. Down here you lay the power, you put it in the elevator, and it sends it all the way to the top. Same thing with the shells. There'd be men there, and they would load it up, send it up an elevator, and keep moving up, so it reached the top, and then it would be fired out. And like I said, every 30 seconds, it's sending one of these bad boys. Now, it would make a crater that's about 50 feet wide and 20 feet deep. So in Vietnam, they would call us, a helicopter would call us, and they'd say, oh, we need to land in the jungle, but there's no landing zone. So we'd fire a shell over, it would absolutely obliterate everything in that area, and now there's a landing zone for a helicopter. Does anyone have any questions?
What's this thing coming out the side?
So that's a directory. That helps aim the gun and you see where you just fired. There's one on the other side of it too. The barrels are rifled, right? The bottom of this is made out of brass because brass is I want to say it melts very low, so it'll catch the grooves when it detonates. It'll catch the grooves of the rifling and spin it so that it gets more accurate. Any other questions?
The inside of the barrel has the same diameter at the beginning as at the end, or it changes?
Yes.
That's the same one.
The inside of it is always going to be 16
But
inches.
the projectile will hit and become bigger, go inside the barrel. Will be.
This will expand by
the friction. Okay. Absorbed by the brass.
Yeah, it'll expand by just a millimeter or 2, and then it'll catch the grooves and spin. But it doesn't expand too much. It's just the little bottom part.
So this is a 16-inch shell, right?
Yes, the smaller.
Okay. So how many rounds does a ship like this carry? Because you got, what do you got? 3, you got 9?
9. Morgan, how many of these do we have at a time?
There's 212 of them per flat, and we have 6.5 of those. So, like 1,200-ish. Now, they can reload these at sea. That is one of the things that gives the U.S. Navy such fantastic enduring powers. That there are very few countries that have really mastered this unrest thing with underway replenishment. You can get anything on the ship with the exception of missiles. Now, with this comes a really fantastically fun problem with fluid dynamics. So we're all familiar with the Bernoulli thing, like why airplanes fly. You've got that tear shape that as fluids move faster, the pressure tends to decrease. Same thing happens with ships because they have this curved side. So with underway replenishment, we're going, ship pulls up next to us. It creates a negative pressure on the inside, so the ships have a tendency to kind of tow in towards each other. They really want to crash into each other. The Navy's done that several times. And so it's actually kind of terrifying. You have to pull up next to each other and you have to turn out somewhere between 1 and 3 degrees, descending on the side of your ship. You have to kind of pull away from them. And they run, essentially, they have these guns that have cables and hooks. You shoot it over to the other ship instead of like a zip line, and they just bring you whatever you need. Up to and including people.
So you can load shells from one ship to another?
Yes. If we call them and say, hey, we're in the middle of the South Pacific, we're running out, they'll come deliver them. Scrap metal, food, ammunition, people, medical supplies.
Like a FedEx driver?
Yeah, kind of.
Gotcha.
Amazon is not the original one to deliver everywhere. It's the United States Navy.
Yes.
Any other questions?
What are the actual length of the barrels on these? Pretty long, do you know?
68 feet.
What was that?
68 feet. This is the largest gun ever built for any U.S. Navy ship. So here's the thing we like bragging about the ship. New Jersey is the longest battleship ever built by 4 whole inches. She is the fastest and she is the most decorated. And in 1944, the United States Navy makes the decision to stop building battleships entirely, meaning we get to hold on to those records forever. The one record we do not hold is largest gun. This is the largest American gun ever constructed. The largest gun ever constructed, anyone know?
Yamamoto?
Yamamoto, anyone know how big it is?
18.
18 inches. Beats us by a whole 2 inches. Now there is kind of a practicality limit. These can be reasonably reloaded by people with fairly good consistency and fairly good accuracy. They have an issue with that. Yamato's at the bottom of the ocean. We're standing here. Do with that information what you will.
Any other questions? Alright, this thing that you're leaning on right here, there's just a standard air vent. That's going to bring all the air down into the bottom of the ship. It'll help keep the ship cool, although relatively cool, because it's still going to be 100 degrees, 110 degrees in the middle of the Pacific. But I was talking about the gun tub that they painted blue and made a swimming pool. This is one of the guns that would have been in that. This is a Bofors 40mm. It's for anti-air. Bofors is a Swedish company, so they sold to just about everyone in World War II. The Germans had these same guns. I don't know if the Japanese did, but they definitely probably had a contract. Everyone was buying these guns. They were probably the best you could get. On one side, you have someone who would aim up and down. On the other side, someone would aim left and right, so you're aiming in tandem. You'd have a bunch of guys helping reload the gun as you fire, too. But we have shot down, I believe the number is 20 planes. We have shot down 20 planes in our lifetime. That's a pretty decent number. But does anyone have any questions about that? Alright, and this is the captain's ship right here. So if the captain, we don't fit in every port, but if the captain needs to stop and go in, they drop this thing in the water for him. Follow me, guys.
What is this thing anyway? Some kind of just here?
They don't give us any financial support. So 100% of our operating money comes through things like ticket sales and gift shop purchases and small donations. This is my PBS, thanks in part to viewers like you speech. You can claim your little square centimeter on the ship that's yours. Now, because of that, they don't give us tons of rules about what we're supposed to do with this ship. Basically, the gist of it is we can't fire the 16-inch guns, we can't fire up the engines, and we're not allowed to use any of the onboard kitchen equipment. They don't want us to take the ship anywhere, that sort of stuff. Other than that, our only responsibility is to tell the story in a way that is accurate and make sure the ship does not sink. And now, what this does mean is that we have this weird assortment of stuff that spans New Jersey's entire service history. She's in service between 1943 and 1991, and that represents really significant changes, and one of the things that she happens to end up getting is a drone. New Jersey does actually have drones the entire time she's in service. She has drones during World War II. There is a really big problem and a really big question. If you're going to bring something like this into a combat zone, you do not want to arrive blindly. This is the Navy's most expensive asset, and more importantly, there's 2,000 people living on board. If anything happens, you're talking about killing 2,000 Americans, and that is calculus no one likes. So when New Jersey is initially constructed, on the back of the ship, there's these two things called Kingfisher seaplanes. If you've ever been on an airplane before, you know that the taxi process is kind of long and that landing is the same way, and we do not have that kind of space. So we have these things called seaplanes, and they launch by catapult off the back of the ship, they land in the water, and then an arm, kind of like one of those claw machines, picks them up, puts them back on the deck. Eventually we move over to the helicopter, and then coming into the 1980s, especially with the advent of the camera, we get a drone. This is very much like a drone you think of, the little things we fly. This is designed to get aerial footage. It's designed to stay above radar detection, take pictures, get out, and come home. It landing back on the ship, though, is really fun. There's just a big net on the back of the ship. It looks a whole lot like a soccer goal, and the goal is crash the drone back into that, capture it, put it on the deck safely, and in one piece. This is actually our most recent acquisition from the museum. We got it from our friends down at Naval Air Station Pensacola. It came in a giant box, and my favorite part of it is the only labeling on said box was the Wikipedia article for the drone they had printed out and taped to the side of it. Not museum people. Questions, comments, concerns, potential lawsuits about things here on the back of the ship? No? Gonna hand it back over to Finn.
Alright, does anyone have any questions? No? Alright, follow me guys, we're gonna head down into the mess deck.
In quella maniera ce l'avevano anche nel 91, quindi erano una specie di cognitori, andavano, certe foto, guardavano, forse non mi si minerale, e poi tornavano, tornavano lì, però non stavano sempre.
What's for lunch?
Today? I'm probably going to McDonald's. But you also have your chapel here. The chaplain is an officer, and I think it's in a room over there in the left. And then in the back there's a library too. You can get a library book, bring it back to your bunk if you wanted to. tell your bunkmate, because neither of them are going to care. But you could tell your chaplain. Right? They serve a very important role that way. Anyone have any other questions about any of that?
How many people were actually on the ship throughout the sea?
So you would have, in World War II, Korea, part of Vietnam, you would have 2,700 men on the ship. Plus, if the admiral brought more guys on for his specific staff, you would have them in addition. So you got 2,700 plus Halsey's 200 guys when he was out. At one point, they were sleeping in hammocks in the middle of the aisles. But there were no hot bunks. A hot bunk is when you get out of bed and someone hops right in. So you would always have your own bed, even if it was a hammock. But when they switched to a volunteer army after the draft ended, they decided that to get people to actually volunteer to get on the ship, they needed to make things better. So they made the beds nicer, and they took a lot of people off the ship, and down to about 1,700. So it took around about 1,000 people off the ship. Any other questions? All right, we're going to walk through here. We're going to see a lunch line. But you can also get all your beverages. You get coffee, obviously you get ice cream right here, you get salad bars, you get coffee, water, some juices. There actually is a whipped cream machine here for your chocolate.
You're a fan of ice cream? Career counselor?
Shop right now. Now, when you are out traveling, you cannot order parts. So you have to make your own parts. You can make screws in here, you can make bolts in here, you can make anything in here. A lot of this stuff, especially these giant lathes in here, they have to be lowered into the ship and the room built around them. Now, just about everything in here still works, all right? State-of-the-art stuff from the 1940s never broke to this day. In fact, we do a lot of the brass volunteers still do work in this machine shop right through there. But you'll see this giant thing right here, this giant steel girder. You attach essentially a brass train to it, attach a chain to that, and if you're someone that's super heavy, you can slide it down here. Now, you would always use brass for that, because brass has a few interesting qualities, but the most important is that brass doesn't spark. So when you're running on the steel, it won't spark up. And you don't want that in your machine shop, especially not down in the gunpowder room. But they use that instead. Brass also is non-magnetic, so it won't affect compasses. And it is naturally antimicrobial. Most Germans don't like it, I guess. But This ship would also serve as parts for everything travel, or all the other ships traveling in the fleet with it. So if a destroyer has an issue, they tell us, we fix their stuff, we make their new stuff, and give it back. But it also kind of ended up being a bartering system there, where if we repaired something for a destroyer, we'd call them, we'd say, yeah, we fixed your thing, but it's going to cost you. Do you have any ice cream powder by any chance? Yeah, you have to trade for it. Yeah, just about everything in here still works. You got a sandblaster right here, overhead oven, and a bunch of lathes in here. Now we're going to keep moving. Watch your head, guys.
The days began very early. It put on lunch.
So I'd go on watch at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd go out and watch it. Have a quick breakfast and go to work in the sunshine.
I'm tall enough for that thing, so I won't put my head in the fan. And back last.
Plate on the inside might be half the size, but they have all this insulation just so everyone's not cooking down here. Steam supply with these ones. You'll see some of them are water pipes, just the regular plumbing. A lot of them are for steam, using steam around to power the entire ship. Love off boilers.
Was it always, did they always have them insulated, or was that something that?
Always insulated.
Okay. You know, there was some of the stuff happened later,
Yeah.
when they realized, oh, wow.
Well, you also need to know by touching it. Now you can't work this out anymore.
We got one more for Ridge Slope. I had to look at the machine shop.
Big boilers. There's 4 big boilers.
Can I move?
To run the propeller ship.
Yes. A lot of stuff would go into generators that would convert into electrical power, but the propellers and a lot of other things run off of steam still.
What fuel do you use?
There's like I don't know the exact name, but it's called like Navy B2. It's just the standardized naval oil.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so this is the post office for the ship. Thank you, everybody. The post office, because you got 2,700 guys on here, and they all have mail, they all have paychecks, and they all have letters coming in and going out. So you would not have a post office. There's bars all over it because of the money orders and all the paychecks in here, so no one can break in. But you know, we're a traveling city essentially, and you can mail things out. At its longest, it might take a month to get something sent out and for it to actually arrive. If you know, you're sending something from Pearl Harbor all the way to New Jersey, it might take about a month, maybe a little less, but I'd say about 3 weeks to a month is your standard time on shipping. Over to the right, you'll see all these pieces of wood. Now, I said earlier they didn't like to keep wood on the ship, but they would keep this wood, and there's also some other metal pieces used for shoring up the ship. If there's a problem with the bulkhead, you can take that wood, cut it to the proper length, and use the proper wood so you get the port and get it actually repaired. Does anyone have any questions?
When they would get mail, did it get delivered to them, or would they have to come down here to the post office?
Oh, you want to put this in
You have to
here?
come pick up your mail. Where you get it, there's a bunch of packages down there. Package, they be given to you, but you have to pick up your own now. Any other questions?
So were the people who worked the post office actually like Navy sailors, or were they USPS people?
Navy sailors. Any other questions?
Eclipse in
Alright, we're going to move into berthing. B-E-R-T-H, not B-I-R. This is where soldiers sleep. Follow me, guys.
How about the one that is in the sea? And you look so pretty with it. Look, there's some beds. That's what you wanted to see, isn't it? Yeah. Someone sleep in it? No, one on here. Can you go inside and see them?
See, there you go. These are probably well, there's the ammunition points. I took the cover off so you can see it.
So we are in the berthing space right now. This is where soldiers sleep. There is a lot of beds on this ship, all scattered around. But originally, when I said they had 2,700 sailors on the ship, these beds were not here. They were about 4 or 5 high, actually. They weren't these regular 3 high beds. They were 4 or 5 high, and they were made out of chicken wire, and they folded out. That's how they fit so many guys on here, but when they convert to a volunteer army, you get people to actually come onto the ship and then volunteer for the Navy. They gave them better accommodations, and they cut down the size of the crew to fit that. So these are the beds you would have had post-Vietnam, essentially. Does anyone have any questions? You'll also see everyone has a locker. You have a little bit of space below your bunk to fit some papers, maybe some letters, maybe a book or two. You always have this tiny little, every bed is dedicated to have it. I don't know exactly where they are in this room, but a tiny little thing that is orange in it. If you pull it out, the orange thing is an oxygen mask. So if this room's filled with smoke or water, you have a few minutes of oxygen for you, and every bed would have one, including the captain's bed. We're going to keep moving.
No.
If you heard me on something, you could have done something tonight.
You wouldn't fit.
I probably would not fit, no. You would fit.
Not comfortably.
You need to fit comfortably. You're not.
Yeah.
Let it go over gentle for the X-rays. And it's just that.
Engine room boilers, turret, that's on the
Young men who love junk food and cigarettes. Everyone was smoking cigarettes just about the entire time. There were a few places you weren't allowed to smoke. You weren't allowed to smoke in the mess deck. You weren't allowed to smoke in the turrets. You weren't allowed to smoke in a few other sections, especially officer classes where officers stay. You weren't typically allowed to smoke, although I'm not sure how often that was enforced. The dentist had all the tools he needed. He had x-rays, he could create false teeth, he could create caps, he could pull teeth, he could do anything. He also served as the ship's anesthesiologist, right? So he would administer anesthesia, he would do surgeries down in the med bay. He would be the one in charge of all that, so you have to go down a few decks, actually there's one deck below us. You head down there and do it. And also the dentist had a lead door, because when they're doing an x-ray on your teeth, he would come out, he locked the door behind him, out salt water and desalinate it. And then it would, two types of water. We have regular mineral water that you could drink, and then pure H2O. Exactly, if you drink that, you will die. It doesn't have all the minerals, it's not aerated properly. Something that they use that on that box on the ship. And actually, all of the toilets in the ship were salt water, except for one. The brig had fresh water, because if you were in the brig, all you got for your rations was a piece of bread with 1 cup of water for the day. That's all you got. But sailors figured out that if you're in the brig, you can just start drinking water out of the toilet. It's salt water. You get sick. You get sent to med bay, and that way you can get some actually good food that way. Any other questions? Alright, so I'm going to head up back to the boardroom. That's where we started. If you follow the blue line here, the blue line is going to bring you down to the sick bay, turd bay, towards Broadway. You can find back yourself back on to where all the tours end up. All the tours wrap up in the same spot. There's a red line, blue line, yellow line, green line. We did most of the red line already. So I would probably recommend going on the blue line if you want to see more, or follow me up to the boardroom if you'd like to exit the ship. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys all for coming.